Hello and welcome to the second installment of JP's Daily Commute. And today we have Black Pearl, which is my street light, and we're gonna talk about it while we go from here, my work at Westfield High School, to home at the Energy Corridor in Houston, Texas. So if you're interested in the street light from Harley, stick around, stay tuned. Maybe this video is for you. And there it is, the 2021 Harley Davidson Street Glide, the standard version. Now we will talk about, all the things that I've added to the bike, how they worked out for me, how this bike rides, and everything that we can review as we go home. So, it's a little bit dirty because it has been raining, and this, as we said, this is an actual review, not from a journalist, but from an actual daily commuter that rides his bikes to work every day. So, how is the street glide on the daily commute? So the first thing you'll notice when you get on this bike, especially coming from sport bikes or naked bikes, is that obviously the Harleys are a lot heavier, right? They're a lot heavier than your regular sport bikes. Right. So once you take it off the kickstand and it's on the wheels, you start feeling all that weight. They are very well built and designed, the Harley Davidsons, in that you can the center of gravity, all the weight is down. The engine is down. Everything is basically down. It's a long bike, so that's another thing that you'll notice. One of the things that I do love about this bike is the infotainment system. It's much better than what the Indian brand can come up with. They have these ugly Fisher-Price buttons. This one, well, as you can see, even with gloves, it's very easy to just touch and maneuver on the infotainment system. So what is the infotainment system? Well, it has phone connectivity. So basically it's the same thing you'll have in your car. Most cars now have the same thing. Either the Apple CarPlay or Android Autoplay. I usually use Android. I don't have my phone here because I'm using it to record. But yeah, the infotainment system is great. It has 2 speakers. This is the standard street light, so it doesn't have but the basic Rockford Fosgate, because that's where they now changed from Boom Audio, which was not as great, even though I believe the company that made the Boom Audio, I think it was Harman Kardon, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a better company, but Rockford Fosgate is doing a better job of providing the stereos and the speakers and the amps for these bikes. Still very expensive, but all right. So we're here on this bumpy road, so let's talk about suspension on this motorcycle. So the suspension on the Harley Street Glide is something that is lacking, right? For a $20,000 bike, you would expect something more premium. Now I've tested the Legend shocks, and they're a lot better. I've tested CVOs with better suspension. I haven't tested the Street Glide Special that has a different shocks on the back, and yeah, the front fork is fine. You don't feel the bumps. It does a great job of absorbing them. But the back is just terrible. Right now I have it on a harder setup because I don't like be messing around every time I put my wife on the back. So I just keep it for her, and I can handle it a little bit harder. But still, if it's too soft, you're gonna be bottoming out even by yourself. That's not something you really want on any suspension, especially on a touring bike like this. But if you put it too hard, then you're gonna feel all the bumps in your back. And the way you sit on this bike, well, you really don't have anywhere to stand if you're gonna have a big bump. All you can do is bend your body a little bit and try to not hit your spine. So that's not good. But something that is good with this suspension, especially me coming from a fat boy, I traded my fat boy for this one. Oh man, when you hit the twisties on this motorcycle, it's just so pleasurable. It is unbelievably smooth on the suspension when you're hitting twisties hard. And then the engine does another thing which is awesome. When you're giving this bike the beans, when you're actually hitting the throttle hard, I don't know, it's not gonna be as fast as obviously some of the sport bikes because it doesn't have a lot of horsepower, but you get such satisfaction from feeling this bike just glide on those twisties. So yeah, it's one of those things that people don't expect a big bike like this to be so much fun on the twisties. But there are days when you'd rather have something like this to play around than a regular sport bike. So there's no wonder why they have the king of the baggers, because I'm pretty sure all the guys who are racing bikes also like riding Harleys and enjoying how they feel when you're giving them well, when you're twisting the throttle as far as it can go. So obviously it's not going to be the nimblest bike, but coming from the fat boy, this one you can just go side to side and it's going to be, I mean, it changes directions pretty quick for a big, long, large bike. So yeah, suspension is something that you do need to change. The shocks on the back, the front is fine, but I did have an issue. I've had this bike now for 11,000 miles, which is not that bad, but I had an issue on the neck. Something snapped on it, and it was just ay güey, ¿cómo se dice? The bike was swerving. Is that the word? I don't know the word I'm looking for. It started doing this, swaying, swerving. It did a lot of that, so I had to take it to service, and thank God they changed it, and the warranty covered it, so now it's fine. But it is something to consider, right? You cannot be riding this bike really hard every weekend because it will not take it. It's not a bike that is built for that. It's a bike to cruise around and go smooth, maybe carry a passenger, maybe carry a lot of weight. And I was driving with the old lady and with the touring pack and every other thing that I bought. It made this street light standard look like an ultra limited. So the engine on this bike is the 107 Milwaukee 8. I don't feel a lot of difference between the 114. I had the Fat Boy one with a 114 and stage 1, so it did feel snatchier and peppier, a little bit faster, but it's not something that I miss, not on this bike. The 107, I think it's fine unless you're carrying more weight, but the good thing about it is, well, it does have a lot of torque. So even with a passenger, even with a tour pack filled with the luggage and all that stuff, it still has enough power to get you around and to get you out of trouble. Maybe not that much to get you into trouble, which is something that the Japanese sport bikes or maybe the European sport bikes are going to have. These bikes are not for that. So one other thing, so the ergonomics on the bike, it is very comfortable. the standard seat fits me perfect. I did buy another seat that is cushier for the old lady, but it makes me rise up like an inch or maybe 2 inches, so it's a little bit too high for me. I can't really put my feet down, so I don't like that seat as much. When I'm riding solo, I would much rather have this stock seat. And the ergonomics, well, they're a touring cruiser bike, so you put your you have your legs up front, and that's very comfortable unless you hit a bump. When you hit a bump, that's not really comfortable, and there's no way to stand up. I mean, you can, but it's like not really. You're not going anywhere. So you have to stay in the seat, you have to stay in the saddle every time you hit a bump, and well, that's not as comfortable as it seems. So they should have something. It's just a recommendation for Harleys. They should have little pegs here that you can stand up on easily, because just in case you're hitting a, I don't know, a speed bump or any type of bump on the road. But yeah, it is comfortable. You can ride for hours and hours. This big batwing fairing does a great job of protecting you from the elements. Now this one has this small screen, windscreen. It comes standard. I love the look of that, so that's why I keep it in the summer. And when it's winter time, what I did is I bought, or I received from a friend of mine, Sean, a large windscreen. A lot of the things that I have on this bike, are not really bought. They have been either sold to me at a very good price by friends, or just given to me, so that's awesome. And what are those things that I have on this bike? Well, as you can see, I have this Dragon Touch camera provided by John Kershey, who's been awesome. I also have this other camera that I'm recording on here. This is a GoPro, was provided by my good friend Robert Langfield. I bought this ram mount and these tire pressure monitors. What else I bought? I bought these lower fairings, which have been great. And then I also bought the tour pack from John. He gave me a great price. But right now I removed the tour pack, removed the higher windscreen, and I also bought the lower wind deflectors from the bow wing. So I just keep that for when it is winter time. And as I said, it looks like an Ultra Limited, so that gives you 2 bikes for the price of 1, which is actually the price of 2, because Harleys are expensive. You can definitely get 2 bikes for the price of this one, but you don't have to buy both Ultra and Street Glide. Now, why would not? Let's say you have the money, you want all the Harley original equipment. Why not buy the Ultra Limited and just remove the stuff that you don't need to have the Street Glide look? Well, it's not really possible. First thing, the Street Glide sits lower than the Ultra, so the look is different, but also the feel and the way it rides. And then the Ultra, you can't really remove the tour pack. It's not the detachable tour pack that comes standard on the Ultra. So yeah, better to buy the Street Glide and then buy the stuff that you need for touring. Oh, another thing I bought is this thing, the cup holder. I bought the big one so I can get the large thermos from Harley Davidson. And these thermos are great because, well, they keep all your drinks either warm or cold, depending on what you want, for hours. You put ice and a drink, and you can ride, and in 2 hours the drink will still have ice on it. So that's pretty impressive. And it's one of those things also that you don't miss unless you have it. which is a drink holder on your bike. If you never had one, you don't miss it, but now that you do, whenever I'm riding my other two bikes, I do miss it. I do miss the stereo, and I do miss the infotainment, and I do miss the drink. Now the infotainment, the stereo, does give you good quality sound. I'm not saying it's the best in the world, right? If you're a music fanatic, I do recommend you buy some quality earbuds that are going to give you better sound quality. But if you just want to hear some metal music while you're cruising down the highway, you will be hearing it up to 90 miles per hour, which is pretty impressive. After 90 miles per hour, yeah, the wind is going to catch everything, and you're not going to be able to hear anything. Or if you're listening to Mozart or some classical music, anything above 50 miles per hour is going to distort the sound too much, that you're not going to be able to enjoy it. But let's say you're listening to ZZ Top on your way to La Grange, Texas, you will be able to hear it. Alright, so what other things we can talk about? Let's talk about the brakes. So the brakes on this motorcycle are, what can we say? Have you ever ridden a 1970s pickup truck? You know that the brakes are going to hold and they're going to stop the truck, right? But you're not going to stop in a dime. You're not going to stop and feel like you're going to break some records. You will stop, but it takes forever to stop, especially if you're going fast. So it's easy for you, if you're getting into trouble, to try to maneuver out of the way than to get hard on the brakes. Some of the newer and more expensive Harleys have better electronics, or actually have electronics, and better ABS, I believe, better brakes overall, because these are not, I mean, they're fit for this bike and they're going to stop it, but yeah, they're not for racing. They're not for doing anything crazy, because it's a big heavy bike and it's going to take a while for you to stop. And you also think, another thing you have to consider is, well, most of the people are used to driving cars. Cars have a better stopping power because they use more pistons, more rotors, and 4 wheels. On this, with these machines, you only have 2 wheels, so usually they are going to stop later than a car. So that's why you have to ride, giving the cars in front of you a little bit of space. You don't want to be too close, especially on a big bike like this, and it's not going to stop because of those brakes. The tires that come on these street lights are pretty good, because they do take some punishment, right? You can ride this bike hard for 3,000, 4,000 miles, and you'll still be able to get good life out of those tires. I've changed them once, and as I said, I have 11,000 miles on the clock. Only once, and I put the same tires that came stock, and they're branded Harleys, but they're a different brand, I forgot. But you can ride them pretty hard, and they will hold better than you would expect on a big bike like this when you're putting it on the side, on the twisties. But they're also very good in the wet. If it's raining, even though this bike does not have any modes, it doesn't have to ride by wire, so it doesn't have any riding modes. When you're riding the street light, you don't really need that, because it's not as snatchy as you might find other cruisers to be, or other touring bikes maybe, I don't know. These bikes are even though they sound very powerful and they do sound like muscle bikes, they're not snatchy at all. They're very smooth, so you don't need rider modes. The rider mode is just this, right? Just your twist, just your wrist. So with those tires and this bike, you can ride in the wind, you can ride in the rain, you can ride when it's cold, And this is the bike I use whenever it gets really cold. Whenever it gets close to freezing temperatures, you want to be on a bike like this because of the big fairing. And as I said, I have all these extra things that are going to protect you from the elements. And man, do they do a good job. So as you can see on the freeway or on the tollway, this bike is in its element. It just loves to cruise. And another thing that I love about this bike is, well, the cruise control. The cruise control works great, and it's very easy to access. All you have to do is, well, click on this button and it starts, and then you click on set and it's gonna stay. The cruise control is gonna stay. Now I had to remove it because we're getting into traffic, but whenever you have a good patch of freeway, using the cruise control is a lifesaver. Because, well, sometimes as you're riding for hours, you can get tired on either hand, and that way you can release your hand without having to stop or put in the clutch. So that's awesome. So you can really relax. Every touring bike has to have one, but every bike in general should have a cruise control. Right now, cruise control is not that expensive. I don't know why other like every manufacturer don't just install cruise control. Gas mileage. Let's talk about gas mileage. This bike has a big 107 cubic inch engine and pretty heavy. It's not gonna give you the best gas mileage. So if you're thinking of buying a Harley to save on money, you might as well just stick with your car, because gas mileage is not great, and then the payments for a Harley are not going to be as cheap as other bikes. And so yeah, they're not made to make you save money. Although on Harley's behalf, I can say that the service intervals are better than on other bikes, because usually you have to come in at every 4,000. Harleys, you can come in at every 5,000. And then the price to service your Harley is not going to be as expensive as like a Yamaha or a Suzuki. So those are things that, well, you have to take into consideration. So we have trip A, trip B. We have 85 miles remaining until the gas is gone. I'm trying to find out where is the gas mileage, but I forgot. So I'm going to owe you that, guys, for next time. And we're almost at the point where we're almost at home. Let's talk about how is this bike in heavy traffic. Well, it's okay. Let's not say it's not great. I mean, you would much rather have any of my Japanese bikes on a road with a heavy traffic, so I can filter and I can maneuver. Because Harleys are not the best, especially these big touring bikes. They're not the best to maneuver in slow traffic. The clutch is not hydraulic anymore, and it can get a little bit heavy, so that's gonna hurt your hand a little bit and your wrist. You're gonna get tired if you're in stop and go traffic. Another thing is you can't really go in between cars on every road. On big roads, yes, you can. They have big heavy lanes, but I mean big wide lanes. But if you are in a smaller either avenue or highway, like on Highway 45, you can't really filter through traffic. You have to stay in the lane. That can become dangerous a little bit. Sientes como que la coach. Well, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed commuting on my bike from my work to my house. And remember, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. Send the video to all your friends. If you didn't like it, make sure you send it to all your enemies. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Hello and welcome to the... No, ¿dónde está esto? Acá. Hello and welcome to the second installment of JP's Daily Commute. And today we have Black Pearl, which is my street light, and we're gonna talk about it while we go from here, my work at Westfield High School, to home at the Energy Corridor in Houston, Texas. So if you're interested in the street light from Harley, stick around, stay tuned. Maybe this video is for you.